Welcome to day 9 of 12 of the 12 Days of Finance. I'm Robin. I'm a certified financial planner, certified private wealth advisor, wealth manager by trade, and your rich auntie. Today I'm stepping back a little bit from retirement to talk about things that I wish I had known as an individual before I began financial advising. Now, I do have a background in finance. I did major in finance in college, but it was corporate finance. It wasn't personal finance. After graduate school, I began a career and I was actually a healthcare consultant for many years. I became a financial advisor, wealth manager in my mid-30s and was trained basically on the job to do the work of a financial advisor. Now, since I've started actually sitting in the seat and doing the work, I went on to get additional training and credentials to be able to more effectively do this work. But when I look back over my career, there's some things I really wish I would have known very early on in my career about money and finances, and I wanted to share those with you today. So stay with me. Something that has always been remarkable to me is money is often not about money. That's the first thing I think I would have told myself if I could go back 10 years to the beginning of my career. When a client comes and sits in my office or we have a client meeting, we probably spend 20 to 30% of the meeting talking about their money. And then we spend the other 80 to 70% of the meeting talking about the issues surrounding the money. Why the person needs the money, why the person is investing this money, family issues, career issues, home issues, etc. And I found very early on through trial and error that when you ignore the purpose, the reason why someone is investing, you cannot adequately service that client. There are clients or financial advisors that have client relationships that have fantastic returns, but they end up losing the client relationship because they don't take care of the person and the circumstances surrounding those fantastic returns. So you have to take a more holistic approach to people. You have to really find out about the person, their lives, and you have to be able to tie the investment, its performance, and what it's doing back to the everyday details of that person's life to really be a successful financial advisor. So I wish someone had told me that from the very beginning. Next, 90% of success in this field is picking up the phone. I am phone phobic by nature. I don't like talking on the phone. I don't like picking up the phone. But one of the reasons why my clients really like me is that they can call me and I will pick up the phone. Not an assistant, not another financial advisor, not someone else in the office. If I've worked with you for 7, 8, 9 years, you often have my personal number, and my clients have been very they've always made very strategic use of my personal number. I've never felt there was a situation where I had to have a conversation to tell someone to stop calling me. But to be able to get to the person who has the information that you need or can instantly resolve your problem really does put you light years ahead of a lot of other people. And I've had people give me the feedback. They really like working with me because of my accessibility. So sometimes, even though you don't want to pick up the phone, even though you may be busy, even though you may be phone phobic, 90% of success and how people view you is picking up the phone when they call. This is a huge one, and I've learned this lesson many times in many ways, often through mistakes, my own or by mistakenly working with a client in this way. Never invest in something you don't fully understand or the client doesn't fully understand. There are some really, really great products out there, but they are super complex. They are super difficult to explain, and the client at the end of the day really doesn't understand it. Even though those products are really good, I tend to avoid them because of that issue. I never want to have to go back and explain why a particular product or a particular investment went left and the client has no idea what I'm talking about or really doesn't understand why we had that investment in their portfolio. I've made that mistake investing people in something they didn't understand early in my career and came to regret it when exactly that scenario happened. Something didn't go quite right, and I ended up losing that client relationship simply because I pushed them to invest in a great product, but something they ultimately did not understand and weren't ready to invest in at that stage in their investment journey. There's many products and services or that I use. There's a lot of different investment products that cross my desk. There are things that I invest in that I would never invest my client money in. There are things that I invest in to make sure I understand how it works before I invest client money in it. But that is something most financial advisors learn pretty early on, is that you don't invest someone's money in a way or in a product they don't understand. Now, sometimes I have to invest someone's money in a very complex financial instrument, and I usually have to explain it to them every single meeting over a period of 3 to 5 years for it to really firmly settle, that they understand all the different moving parts of it. But you have to be very, very careful about doing that, very careful about doing that. Social media pretty much should never be trusted as a source of information for finances. And I know I'm on social media, so I am one to talk, but there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation out here on social media. Anytime you see someone on YouTube or social media recommending a particular stock or a particular product, I can 100% guarantee you they're not licensed or credentialed, because we're not allowed. If we are licensed, you have a Series 7, a Series 66, a CFP, you're not allowed to recommend specific products or stock or mutual funds or ETFs or cryptocurrencies to people. We would have our licenses and credentials removed if we did that. You should always ask yourself, who is this person giving advice? They're obviously not licensed, credentialed, or working as a financial advisor. It's probably a layperson. Second question you should ask them is, how is this person being compensated for it? Oftentimes, I would say most of the time, there is some sort of compensation agreement working in the background where that creator, that content creator, is receiving funding from said investment to sell their or shill their investment on their channel. That should be an automatic red flag. Next question you should ask about any investment is, have you heard of this investment through any other sources, or is this the first time that you are hearing about the investment? I have had some clients who've invested in various things because some social media expert mentioned it on their channel, but if they had done 10 minutes of research, they would have realized that what the social media expert was saying was incorrect, or there was a lot of information already out there about this investment contradicting what the social media expert was saying. I personally think it's unfortunate in our society that there has to be a paywall between getting excellent financial advice from a financial professional and the general public. But unfortunately, that's where we're at, and that's unfortunately the reality of my field. And personally, I think Americans deserve more. And that's one of the reasons I started this channel. But if you notice, I do not recommend specific products. I do not talk about my own portfolio because I don't want to be perceived as recommending what I'm investing in. And I don't give specific advice about investment, like this stock, this mutual fund, that mutual fund. I have lots of thoughts on that edge. But just remember, if someone is recommending a specific mutual fund, stock, ETF, or bond, they're not licensed. They cannot be licensed. And how is that person being compensated? And be sure to look up additional information about the investment that that person is shilling, because that person may not understand what they are selling, or all the information that they are giving you may not be transparent and accurate. Polite persistence works. In the early years of starting this career, it's a tough job. It's a really brutal job for the first 5 years, because you have to bring in your own clients. And I did not grow up in a wealthy, affluent background. I grew up very middle class. I don't have a huge network of extremely wealthy people who can float me through. I basically had to find my own clients. And I was not a salesperson, but I love this work so much that you have to learn the art of sales and the art of being able to convince someone who maybe you met at an event, maybe you met out and about, to become your client and invest large sums of money with you. I learned that being politely persistent paid off. What that means is a person may not be ready to become your client now, They may not even be ready to become your client 6 months from now, but they may come back a year or two from now and become your client. Or they may refer people to you that become some of your best clients. So being polite and being persistent really does pay off. And it's the long game. It takes a lot of energy, and it also takes a lot of persistence and politely following up. But people do recognize that, and people do remember it. And if you're good at it, people will refer to you or will become your client eventually. Derivatives and hedges, I don't talk about them too much on my channel because I don't do them too much in my own practice. But derivatives, if you don't know what they are, it's basically high stakes gambling on the direction of stock. Derivatives can make sense in certain circumstances, but the risk strata is basically through the roof. Occasionally, I have people reach out to me to ask me to do derivatives or ask me to do puts and calls and things like that. Depending on the circumstances, maybe. I don't like really doing it because if you mess it up, you get one thing wrong, you really, really have put that client in a bad situation. But occasionally, I will do derivatives and I will do hedges. Now, one thing that I've learned from my experience is you don't do it unless you know these things and you know them really, really well. Because I don't do them very often, I often have to be very cautious in what I'm doing to make sure I'm putting together certain, moves correctly and executing those moves correctly. I've seen people who do a lot of derivatives and hedges in E-Trade accounts or in their personal trading account as kind of day trading. I won't go on and on about day trading. You can look up, there are studies done on the results of day trading. Most day traders do not come out on top of day trading long term. But unless you really know what you are doing or you're under the supervision of someone who really knows what they're doing, I would really advise you to stay away from derivative and hedges in investing. If someone's not ready, they're not ready. I've definitely had prospective client meetings where it was obvious that for some reason this person was not ready to start investing. Maybe it was a personal reason, maybe it was a family reason, maybe it was a broader reason. But you have to take people where they're at. And there are people who, on some level, I would have loved to have them as clients, but I knew they weren't ready. And so I declined the client relationship. And I've never regretted when I've done that. I've only regretted when I pushed through and accepted the client relationship only to realize this person really isn't benefiting from the client relationship in the way I had hoped because they're not ready. They're not ready to accept risk. They're not ready to invest in the stock market. They're not ready to do anything that would really justify what they are paying me. So if you're not ready, you're not ready. That's okay. I take people where they're at. But there has to be a baseline level of readiness in order to justify my existence in a person's financial life. So if you're not ready, you're not ready. If you're ready, you're ready. Return versus adjusted return. In the world of financial advising, we typically look at risk adjusted return a lot. There's a lot of people who will tell you that this particular stock, mutual fund, Bitcoin, whatever, has a really great rate of return, but what they can't tell you is the risk adjusted, like how much risk are you taking for that level of return. And right now in December 2024, Bitcoin has just crossed the 100,000 threshold. We get all the crypto people coming out saying, I told you so, Bitcoin is so wonderful. It's the highest returning investment over a 10-year period of time, but it's not the best risk adjusted investment over a 10-year period of time. And financial advisors, we exclusively pretty much look at risk adjusted return. So there you have it. Some things I wish I had known before I started my journey as a financial advisor. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. And if you found this information useful, please like, share, and subscribe.